Hey y'all, so today has been a pretty emotional day for me, and Avery has been there to be by my side. But just to give y'all a little bit of context, if y'all didn't know, I was adopted. So I've been adopted basically since I was a baby, and I was adopted by two loving people who eventually passed away. But since growing up adopted, you've always wondered like where you came from, who has the same blood as you. It's something that has affected every single last relationship, whether it's a friendship, somebody that I'm interested in general. It's affected my schooling. It has actually pushed me to be a better person in a lot of instances, and it's something that I've always wondered. It's always been in the back of my mind. So one day, it was in my undergrad, I got curious, and it was around in 2014. So about 4 years ago, I got curious, and I started researching how would I find out where I came from, stuff like that. And I talked to my aunt, because my parents had passed away, my adopted parents, about, where I came from, exactly like what agency. And so she was able to share with me what agency I came from. And so eventually I reached out to them. And this is like weeks upon weeks. So every step I would take, I would get a little bit scared and nervous and fall back a little bit. And when I reached out to the Catholic Charities of Southeast Michigan, they had to check to see if a denial form was in my file. So a denial form, for people that don't understand, is if your parents give you up or you lose custody, they can file a denial form so that you cannot know any information about them, or basically it's like so you will never know. And so they had to go through Lansing to check through that. And then I received a letter about 3 weeks after that saying that there was no denial form in my file. And then it basically enclosed non-identifying and identifying information about my case. And, growing up, I always thought that, I met my mother and two of my biological brothers when I was 6 in a Wendy's. And I remember asking my adopted mother, like, why was one of my brothers white? And that's how I found out that I was mixed. That's when I got the first indication. And so I remember just being a baby and just playing with them. And so, I've never seen them since then. I've never seen my biological mother since then. I was 6, so I don't remember the face or anything. And so I know my name always wasn't Chris. So I'm just going to read y'all what the letter says. It says Tavon Jamal Thomas, aka Johnson, Tavon Johnson. Date of birth September 16, 1992. You were born at home on 9/16/92 at approximately 9:30 and then transported to Pontiac General Hospital. Your birth weight was approximately 3 pounds and 14 ounces, with gestation records recorded to be approximately 35 weeks. You also tested positive for cocaine. There were lacerations on your scalp and left leg. As your mother explained, you fell down 10 steps at the time of your birth. Due to your prematurity, you were not discharged from the hospital until you were 4 weeks old. At that time, you were placed in foster care with your adopted family, Mr. and Mrs. Banks, on 10/13/1992. At the time of placement, there were no known suitable relatives willing to plan for you. You were said to exhibit common characteristics of cocaine-exposed infants. You were irritable, hypersensitive, with a shrill and a chronic cry. Your foster mother would swaddle you and use an orthodontic pacifier she held and rocked you at the same time, shaping your skull. Since one side had been flattened by the fall at birth, By 2 months of age, you weighed approximately 9 pounds, 12 ounces, and doctors indicated that you were growing normally. You scooted rather than crawled at 8 months and were walking by 12 months. As a toddler, you were described to be healthy, and it said by age 2, your weight and height considered within the normal range, and you no longer cried in the night. Your language was slower at developing. However, you began speaking in sentences by age 22 months. You were not yet potty trained at this time. However, you did have all your teeth. You were also said to have a hearty appetite, eating most table foods such as spaghetti, macaroni, mashed potatoes, and eggs. You were said to be adorable with big brown eyes, sparse brown hair, and a brown complexion. The normal development was said to be attributed to your foster parents' consistent nurturing care. You were also said to be a very affectionate little boy who was very attached to your foster parents, loving to be cuddled and held. Additionally, you were said to have gotten along well with your foster brothers and enjoyed playing with trucks, Barney. My bad, y'all. But I just gotta show Avery because he's just so cute. He's just sitting there. But I'm gonna finish the letter. So it says, additionally, you were said to have gotten along well with your foster brothers and enjoyed playing with your trucks, Barney, and climbing up on your tricycle. However, were not able to pedal. Your birth mother is Audrey Thomas. Date of birth 6/16/55. Her last known address was listed, but there was also another address listed. There is no known phone number listed for Miss Thomas, and she was said to be very inconsistent with her visitations with you, and last attended visitation on April 5th, 1994. Siblings. At the time of your birth, your mother had 4 children, including yourself. 2 of these children appeared to have already been previously removed from your mother's care, as she had a history of not seeking treatment for her substance abuse. Your brother, Ronnie Johnson, was said to be 20 years of age and living in the parental relative in Indiana. Antoine, no last name listed, was said to be 12 years of age and living with maternal parents who had legal guardianship of him. He was an average height and weight with brown hair, brown eyes, and brown complexion. He was also said to excel at baseball, basketball, football, and earn trophies for such. The other was D'Angelo Johnson, 5 years of age, who was living under your mother's care when you were born. He was placed with your maternal grandparents and aunts. He was said to be tall, slender, brown hair, brown eyes, and medium brown complexion. And under my birth father's history, it says your birth father was unknown and listed as John Doe, and that his rights were terminated 1/22/93. And so, when I got this letter, I was originally hurt, just because it just basically, you go through life as somebody who you don't feel like you know yourself really, or you feel unwanted. So you go through your life, and I had the perception that this lady, meaning my birth mother, just didn't have the means to take care of me. And so I had this whole story in my mind that she just couldn't take care of me, so she just gave me up to another family, which I was very happy with the family that I was raised with, and my brothers, my mother, and my father, and everybody that came with it. But you just always wonder where you come from or just what happened. So this originally surprised me, and I shared this with another one of my brothers, and he essentially went up, and then he found his family, his birth family, in like a day. So it took me 3 weeks, more than 3 weeks, to just get this letter of information. And he found him in a day. And so I was interested in finding my brothers. So he found his family on Facebook. So he just typed in his name. So I kind of thought that it would be just as easy. And it wasn't. And honestly, I was jealous. Because he had his family. He had found his family. Even though they weren't what he thought that they were. But it was, he had them. And there was nothing else